that even mean, Bauer's Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another episode of Skip the Rules, and today we're skipping the rules for both Uno Triple Play and Uno Triple Play Stealth from Mattel Games. This is for 2 to 6 players, ages 7+, and I can teach you both versions of the game, because the first thing you're going to want to do in both games is insert some AA batteries in here. You'll need a Phillips head screwdriver, and then the only difference between the two games is that you're going to have an extra switch down here. So this will allow you to turn it into the Stealth game mode. We're going to turn it onto the regular game mode, and also there's a timer mode, and I'll teach you how to do the Stealth mode and the timer mode after you learn the basic gameplay of Uno Triple Play. So once you've got it, you're going to set it in the middle of the table. You're going to hit this go button right here. You're going to deal out 7 cards to every player, and in typical Uno fashion, the goal of the game is to get rid of all your cards. If you can get rid of all your cards, then you will be the winner of the game, unless you want to play with the point system, which I will talk about at the end of the video as well. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is put a card into each one of the discard slots before the youngest player goes, and if you happen to draw any wild cards or special cards, just tuck those back into the middle of the deck somewhere and keep drawing until you only have numbers. And when you place this out, make sure you don't accidentally tap this button right here, because each of the discard piles has its own separate button. So let's pretend this is the youngest player. They will go first, and on your turn, it is very typical Uno fashion. You are trying to either match a color, so I could put any green right here or any yellow right here, or match a number. So I could put an 8, a red 8, or a blue 5. You get that. But what's different is on your turn, you're only going to be able to play to the discard piles that are lit up. You never quite know which ones those are going to be. So right now I could play on one of these 2 piles. So I might play this skip card right here, and I just tap it, and it's going to skip this player and go over to this player. Now, the other thing you'll notice happened is it went from green to yellow, because eventually what will happen is the next time someone goes here, it might go to red or it might stay yellow. And if you ever have to discard a card into a red one, it might overload. But we'll cover that in a minute. So this player over here is going to discard that 1, make sure they tap it in. It goes back to this player, and let's pretend that this player can't actually play a card or doesn't want to play a card. When that's the case, you're going to draw 1 card from the top of the draw pile, and if you want to play it, you can. So you would just set this down. However, if you choose not to play it, you do still have to tap a lit-up discard pile. You're never going to get out of tapping on a turn except for 1 special card. With that being said, let's take a look at the 6 special cards in the game. The first one you'll encounter is a skip card. So for instance, with this particular skip, I could play it on this pile, because you could play a skip on top of another skip, or I could play it over here because it matches with the yellow. However, I could not play it over there. Next, we have the discard 2 of the same color card. How this works is if you happen to have another card of the same color as this card in your hand, then you could play both of the cards down at the same time, but you always have to put this card on the bottom. So if I did this, I would place it, and then it would actually skip the next player. You can also just play a discard 2 card by itself as just a color, so that would be a perfectly legal move, placing it on that yellow 1. Next, we have the reverse, which once again reverses the order you're going in. So if you're going clockwise, you go counterclockwise, and vice versa. This could be played on any other reverse, and also whatever color the card happens to be. Next is the wild card. Now, this is different from your typical wild card. In your typical wild card in Uno, you play it, and then you get to decide the color. However, not in this version of the game. So if I were to play this right here, the next person to go to that spot gets to decide what color that is. And of course, with all the wilds, they can be played on any pile when it's your turn. The next card is the Wild Clear card, and this is the safest card in the game. When you place it down, you actually hold down the button for 2 seconds. You'll hear a special sound, and now that area is cleared. The next player to go there gets to decide what color they put. Last, we have the Wild All-Tap, and when this card gets played, typically a mini-game is going to ensue. So how it works is, the player plays the card. Now, if that were to trigger an overload and it would make a noise and then a number would pop up in the middle, then there's no minigame. That player just draws the number of cards shown in the center of the Uno Triple Play console, and the next player takes their turn. However, if that does not happen, like it didn't just do that, the next player doesn't play a card, but rather has to tap a pile that is lit up. So they might tap this one, and then the next player would get to choose between this one. So let's pretend it's this person. So this person would tap here, and then this player would have to tap, even though they were the person that originally started all these shenanigans. So they might tap here, and then this player taps here, and then this player taps here, and eventually you are going to get someone who overloads it. Numbers will pop up, that player will draw that many cards, the next player will hit the go button, and then you're going to continue playing more Uno. Now, one last final rule you need to know. In classic Uno fashion, if you are down to just one card, you have to say Uno before anyone else. If you do not, then you're going to have to draw 2 additional cards if someone is able to say it before you. And the first person to discard all their cards will win the game, but you only win the game if it doesn't erupt when you go off. So let's pretend we did that, and it erupted. That player would not have won the game, and they would want to say Uno real stinking fast. But now you know how to play Uno triple play. So let's talk about the optional scoring variants, the timer mode, and the stealth mode. So if you'd like to keep score, how it works is at the end of every round, so let's pretend that this player won the game, you would total up all of the opponent's cards together and see how many points they had. How the points work are really quite simple. Any numbers are just that number of points. So that right there would be 11 points. Any action cards, such as the skip card, the reverse card, discard 2 of the same color, are going to be worth 20 points, and any of the 3 different wild cards will be worth 50 points apiece. The player that won that round is going to get all those points, and the first player to get to 500 points will win the game. So once these points were totaled up, you would take all the cards, you'd reshuffle, you'd redeal, and you'd play another whole game of Uno triple play. Now, let's talk about timer mode and stealth mode. Timer mode is really quite simple. You're just going to flick this on, and now you're only going to have 7 seconds to play every single turn. And if you don't play your turn in 7 seconds, then you have to draw 6 cards. And yes, this is a very unforgiving game. You're going to go fast. You're going to go frantic in this one. Now, the last game mode you need to know is stealth mode. And yes, you can play stealth mode quite easily by just flipping it over here to the S, and you can play stealth timer mode if you want as well. And the only difference between this game mode and the other one is now you will not be able to see the colors. So I'll show you real quick. So normally this would change the color, but now it does not. So you just kind of have to keep track in your memory of which one is getting full. And everything else will continue to be the same. But that's all you need to know in order to play Uno Triple Play and Uno Triple Play Stealth. If this video helped you out, please consider giving it a thumbs up and letting me know in the comments below where I helped you out in the world. So go have some fun. As always, thanks for your time, YouTube.